The suffering of narcissists when living alone. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our channel. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and join our community for more thought-provoking discussions on psychology and human behavior. Today, we're diving deep into a topic that is often misunderstood but incredibly fascinating: the suffering of narcissists when they find themselves living alone. So, grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and let's unpack this complex and intriguing subject together. Narcissism is a term we hear often, tossed around in conversations about difficult relationships or self-centered behavior. But what does it actually mean to be a narcissist? At its core, narcissism is a personality trait characterized by a deep need for admiration, a lack of empathy, and a pervasive sense of grandiosity. Narcissists often see themselves as superior to others and are heavily invested in maintaining this image of themselves. They thrive on external validation and attention, which makes them appear charming, confident, and even magnetic in social settings. However, beneath this veneer of self-assurance lies a fragile ego that is highly sensitive to criticism and rejection. When we think about narcissists, we might imagine them as being surrounded by people, perhaps even manipulating or using others to prop up their own self-image. But what happens when a narcissist is left alone, without their usual audience or sources of external validation? This is where things get particularly interesting and where the true suffering of the narcissist often begins to emerge. Living alone can be a profoundly challenging experience for anyone, but for narcissists, it can be a unique kind of torment. Let's explore why this is. One of the key components of narcissism is the constant need for external affirmation and validation. Narcissists depend on others to mirror back to them the grandiose image they hold of themselves. They need others to confirm their worth, beauty, intelligence, or power. In the absence of this external validation, a narcissist's self-esteem can plummet. When they are alone, there's no one to admire them, no one to praise them, and no one to serve as an audience for their achievements or charm. This lack of external feedback can lead to a deep sense of emptiness and worthlessness for the narcissist. Imagine a performer who lives for the applause and adoration of the crowd, suddenly finding themselves on an empty stage. The silence can be deafening. For narcissists, being alone can feel like this: a disorienting void where they are stripped of the very things that define their self-worth. Without the constant reinforcement from others, their inflated sense of self can begin to deflate, leaving them face to face with feelings of inadequacy and self-doubt. In addition to this, narcissists often struggle with an inner world that is far less glamorous than the one they project outwardly. Many narcissists experience intense feelings of shame and insecurity, emotions they go to great lengths to avoid or suppress. When they are alone, these feelings can bubble to the surface. Without the distractions of social interactions or the ability to manipulate others to serve their needs, they are forced to confront these uncomfortable emotions. This confrontation can be incredibly painful for a narcissist, as it challenges their self-perception and forces them to face aspects of themselves they would rather keep hidden. The solitude also deprives narcissists of their usual coping mechanisms. In social settings, they can charm others, dominate conversations, or manipulate situations to reinforce their sense of superiority. Alone, they lack the opportunity to engage in these behaviors, which can leave them feeling powerless and exposed. They might try to seek validation through social media or other online platforms, but these virtual interactions often fall short of the deep-seated need for real, tangible affirmation that drives much of their behavior. Another critical aspect to consider is that many narcissists have a poor capacity for introspection. While they might be highly attuned to their outward appearance or the impression they make on others, they often lack genuine self-awareness. This means that when they are alone, they are not only deprived of external validation but also unable to engage in meaningful self-reflection. Instead of using solitude as a time to reflect on their actions or understand themselves better, narcissists might become increasingly anxious, agitated, or even depressed. The quiet of being alone can become a breeding ground for negative thoughts and feelings, which they are ill-equipped to handle. Moreover, being alone can exacerbate a narcissist's fear of abandonment and rejection. Deep down, many narcissists are terrified of being abandoned or seen as unworthy. This fear often drives their need to control and manipulate others in relationships. When they are alone, these fears can intensify, leading to feelings of paranoia, anxiety, and deep sadness. The absence of others can be perceived as a form of rejection or abandonment, even if it's simply a matter of circumstance. This perceived rejection can trigger a downward spiral of negative emotions, further compounding their suffering. Interestingly, while narcissists might appear self-sufficient or even aloof, they are often highly dependent on others to regulate their emotions. They need people not just to validate their worth but also to help them manage their mood and sense of self. Without this external regulation, they can feel emotionally unstable and lost. This is why living alone can be so profoundly destabilizing for them. They are cut off from their primary sources of emotional support and regulation, which can leave them feeling overwhelmed and unable to cope. It's also worth noting that many narcissists struggle with boredom. They crave stimulation, excitement, and drama, often at the expense of genuine connection or intimacy. When they are alone, there's no one to create drama with, no one to entertain or impress. This lack of stimulation can lead to intense feelings of restlessness and boredom, which can be excruciating for a narcissist. In their quest to alleviate this boredom, they might engage in risky or self-destructive behaviors, further contributing to their suffering. Living alone also forces narcissists to confront their own lack of meaningful relationships. While they might have many acquaintances or superficial connections, genuine, deep relationships are often lacking in their lives. This absence becomes painfully apparent when they are alone. They might realize that despite their charm and social prowess, they don't have anyone they can truly confide in or rely on. This realization can be both sobering and painful, leading to feelings of loneliness and isolation. Narcissists are often described as having a false self, a constructed image they present to the world that hides their true feelings of inadequacy and insecurity. When they are alone, maintaining this false self becomes much more difficult. There's no one to impress or manipulate, no audience to feed their ego. This can leave them feeling exposed and vulnerable, as the facade they have carefully constructed begins to crumble. Without the constant reinforcement from others, the false self starts to feel like an empty shell, devoid of substance or meaning. This exposure can be terrifying for a narcissist. It forces them to confront the gap between their idealized self-image and their true self. This confrontation can lead to intense feelings of shame, guilt, and self-loathing. They might become preoccupied with past mistakes or failures, ruminating on them in a way that only deepens their sense of inadequacy. This self-reflection, although often shallow and self-pitying, can be incredibly painful and lead to further emotional distress. Interestingly, some narcissists might try to fill the void of being alone with material possessions or achievements. They might throw themselves into work, hobbies, or other pursuits in an attempt to regain a sense of purpose or worth. However, These efforts often fall short because they are still fundamentally disconnected from their true selves and their deeper emotional needs. The achievements or possessions might provide temporary relief, but they rarely address the underlying issues driving their suffering. Additionally, living alone can disrupt a narcissist's carefully curated social image. They might feel ashamed or embarrassed by their solitude, seeing it as a sign of failure or inadequacy. This can lead to further isolation, as they withdraw from social situations to avoid the perceived judgment of others. This withdrawal only exacerbates their feelings of loneliness and despair, creating a vicious cycle of suffering. Some narcissists might also struggle with feelings of envy when they are alone. They might look at others who have strong, supportive relationships or fulfilling social lives and feel a deep sense of inadequacy or resentment. This envy can be particularly painful because it directly contradicts their self-image of being superior or more deserving than others. The recognition that others have something they lack, a genuine, meaningful connection, can be a significant blow to their ego and lead to further emotional suffering. The suffering of narcissists when living alone is a complex and multifaceted issue. It touches on their need for external validation, their fear of abandonment, their lack of introspection, and their struggles with boredom and envy. It reveals the deep insecurities and emotional wounds that lie beneath their often confident and charming exterior. While living alone can be a time of growth and self-discovery for many people, for narcissists, it can be a period of profound emotional turmoil and suffering. Thank you so much for sticking with us through this deep dive into the psychology of narcissism. We hope you found this discussion insightful and thought-provoking. If you did, please give us a thumbs up, share this video with your friends, and leave a comment down below. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this topic. Don't forget to subscribe